A few days back, I made a video speaking about people discouraging the gifts of the average person in church, and I think I used a video by Apostle Zulu, and I was very clear. This does not mean we are talking about people being false and what. We are saying it's just teaching that just it's not beneficial to the body. Now, I did see people that were saying, no, it's wrong, and all that, when I was saying that there are other ways for people to validate their calling apart from them seeing a supernatural vision and whatnot and stuff. Only for me to find that Pastor Emmanuel Ren was going to make a study exactly on that. So yesterday, from the time when I'm recording this video, yesterday, he made a video talking about different ways a person might find that they have a calling. And it was very interesting because it sounded exactly as I was saying in the video. So I wanted to play it here so that you guys can understand what I was saying. It's not an isolated thing. It's not like Ricky cooked up this teaching. Okay? It's important we continue to learn from each other and the body. And be careful also what you learned. That might not be biblical. So he was talking about other ways to know one has a calling. And I thought it was interesting for us to go through.
Desire, supernatural desire. You see, I've said it time and again, as a child of God, every single node you have should be investigated. I wish I had enough time to elaborate on that. And the simple reason is this: the Bible says it is God who works in you to will and to do of his good pleasure. As a man of the Spirit.
Did you hear that part? It's God who works in you to will. So I spoke about that. There are people that have the desire to want to do something. And I said the desire is just. And so I did see people that that were questioning that and all that. But as you can see, in one of his examples, he makes an example of that. Is that, and he says, it must be questioned. You must question that desire because it is God. And he says, especially when you go to God about it in prayer and so forth, and then it persists. I'll leave the full video down in the description below. This video was top notch. I want you to see the second means by which you can know, which he actually lists out here.
Natural desire can also count. So much so that Paul can say, if anyone desires the position of a bishop, he desires a good thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of. He desires a good thing. You want to serve the Lord? Well, you desire a good thing. Well, this.
So, he gives that verse to show that natural desire also. So there are those with supernatural, now we have a calling. Okay? No problem. But it doesn't disqualify the other person who just wants to serve God as well. It doesn't. The problem has been people overly preferencing their own calling, that they would disqualify others, which is what I was speaking against in that video. Do you see? I'm not the only one saying that. This video was posted yesterday. And he is saying exactly. He happens to be one of the people that I do follow. He's saying exactly the same thing. You'll have to go and check his video to see his explanations and the verses and his interpretations of those verses that he was pointing out over there. It's very important we understand these things, because it's easy to take what other people say about their calling and then we disqualify what we. Okay? And so we must be careful with that. There is a lot of it in the church, where people, when they speak about their calling, for us, we must just back, but then all of a sudden we mustn't recognize. And then another thing that he also lists as a way to know when a person has a calling:
capacity. This flows from the third point of service. Service usually builds capacity.
So he mentions a point and says there are people that actually, when they are in service, like when they are an assistant pastor, not necessarily that they are pastoring a church, but they're just a person who helps the pastor. And maybe they're an usher or something like that. And in that service, they start to develop this desire to want to serve in there. And here he speaks about capacity in this particular sense.
Service usually builds capacity. You see, because it is when you're on errands, just like David, that you build capacity. You kill the lion and the bear, not knowing that you are rehearsing for Goliath.
I won't play the whole video. I'll leave the video down there. He explains different examples where you see that there were certain things that people were doing. I've seen that. When I made the video about the phases in my walk of faith, I mentioned people who, by the time when I was in the church there, they were ushers. And then they started leading the ushers. Then now they are pastors. Capacity. They build the capacity. Doing service work leads them to doing ministry work. But we should be careful self-preferencing, because you feel like your gift is like the bomb. We must be careful with self-preferencing to a point where we start to think, you know what, I have the calling. Maybe they don't. Self-preferencing creates a problem. And what type of problems does it create? It creates problems to such a point where we start to not recognize the desires of others, which are valid, by the way. Okay? Which are valid. Because that person is able to go and actually, like I had people that I know who used to say they had a calling. And I can tell you, it's been about 10, 15 years, and they've done nothing about that calling. Nothing. No shade. They've done nothing. When I started doing apologetics, it was just something that I felt like everybody should hear. And I would go out with a laptop. I didn't know how to preach. I would go out with a laptop. I had only been born again for like a year and a half. I would go out with a laptop and play the videos of other people preaching to people. And in me doing that, then it came. Then I knew that I'm supposed to do this. Okay? But before, it was just, I wanted everybody to hear the message. I wanted everybody to be saved. I wanted everyone to hear the message. And out of that, then I got it. I didn't, when I left the first time, it was because, it was a desire that I had. But then when I stopped, even though I knew there was more to my desire to talking about God all the time, then I had to have something a little bit more. And then I had the confirmation. If you've heard my journey in ministry, you would know that particular part. So do not dismiss people having a desire to do ministry. Do not dismiss that. Okay? He does go to mention many other things inside there, and he gives examples and everything. I don't want to play the whole video. I'll just tell you, I'll leave the video down in the pinned comment or in the description below, and you can go and check the video. I think it does very well in illustrating those things which people disqualify. As I've mentioned before, that it's very easy while we're self-preferencing that we disqualify other people. And a lot of people who saw vision, hey, they did what? Like you've heard Percent when he's talking about his calling. He says, when did you have this? Because those are the criteria they use to disqualify others. That's wrong. Don't do that. Don't run around telling people, no, you don't have this. You don't know anything about how they came to it. Because as you heard him speaking about the subject of the desire to minister, also builds qualification to go ahead. And then he also speaks about the ordination and stuff like that. But I'll leave that video down in the description. It's exactly what I was saying. I thought I wanted to bring it here so that, because it qualifies exactly what I was saying a few days back. For some people, they might have thought, I'm just speaking out of my head. But he gives better explanations. I'm going to leave that video down in the description below. Go check the video and listen to his breakdown and explanations, and you will see what I was saying. Ministry is not all this only when people dream. They come with visions that last 75 hours. Then they know, I know you, they had a voice, my son. And then now they have a colleague. And so this video qualifies exactly what I was saying. And I thought, let me refer you over there. It's Ricky, and I'll see you on a later on episode. Last of all, that video will be out. I think there'll be another episode possibly. Check the pinned comment. They'll definitely be there. It's Ricky. I'll have a blessed day.